Imagine a flood so massive that it drowned entire cities, swept away millions of lives, and reshaped the destiny of a nation. A flood so destructive, its death toll dwarfed that of any other natural disaster in recorded human history. This is the story of the 1931 China floods, a catastrophe so colossal it's often hard to grasp its scale. In this video, we'll journey back to early 20th century China and explore how a deadly combination of nature and human factors unleashed an apocalyptic deluge along the Yangtze, Huai, and Yellow Rivers. We'll uncover how this tragedy changed water management in China forever and what lessons it still offers us today. To understand the 1931 flood, we must first understand the geography of China, a country shaped by rivers. The Yangtze, the Yellow, and the Huai Rivers are more than water sources. They're the lifelines of civilization, the engines of agriculture, and the veins of the Chinese heartland. But with great blessings come great risks. These rivers, particularly the Yangtze, have a long history of flooding. For centuries, Chinese society thrived and struggled on the riverbanks. Their floods could bring fertility, but also chaos and death. The Yangtze River Basin is home to fertile plains and millions of people. When the river swells, the consequences are devastating. Add to this a complex web of tributaries, seasonal monsoons, and centuries of deforestation and poor planning, and you have a recipe for disaster. The year 1931 began with ominous signs. China had just experienced years of drought. The land was dry, the rivers low. But by spring, torrential rains arrived, and they didn't stop. Snow melt from the highlands only added to the water levels. By summer, multiple typhoons struck central and eastern China, dumping enormous amounts of rain. July alone brought more rainfall than some regions had seen in a decade. The soil couldn't absorb it, the rivers couldn't hold it, and the dams, many made of earth and outdated engineering, began to fail. Think of the river system as a bathtub with a slow drain. When the faucet runs non-stop and the drain is clogged, the water doesn't just overflow, it bursts outward. Entire cities were submerged, fields vanished under muddy torrents. The Yangtze, Yellow, and Huai Rivers were no longer rivers. They were inland seas. By August, the floodwaters reached their terrifying peak. The Yangtze River burst its banks. Wuhan, a major hub in central China, turned into an island. Imagine a modern metropolis, swallowed by brown waters, buildings half submerged, people clinging to rooftops. In some regions, flood levels reached over 50 feet. Entire villages disappeared overnight. Rescue was nearly impossible. Communication lines were cut, roads were gone, boats were few, and famine began to set in. Bodies floated for miles. Survivors resorted to desperate measures: boiling grass for soup, eating tree bark. Disease spread rapidly: cholera, dysentery, typhoid. What nature hadn't claimed with water, bacteria soon did. The Chinese government, fractured by political infighting and lacking resources, was slow to respond. Relief efforts were scattered and poorly coordinated. Foreign missionaries and aid workers played a key role, but it wasn't enough. So how many died in the 1931 floods? The numbers are staggering. Estimates vary, but most agree the death toll ranges from 2 million to 4 million people. Let's put that into perspective. That's more than the deaths caused by the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the 2010 Haiti earthquake, and Hurricane Katrina combined, multiplied many times over. Most of these deaths weren't from drowning. They came from starvation and disease in the flood's aftermath. In some provinces, people starved while surrounded by water. Relief efforts couldn't keep up. And in a society already weakened by warlordism, economic collapse, and political instability, the flood acted like a deadly scalpel, cutting into the softest parts of society. It wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a humanitarian one. Behind every statistic is a story. We hear of a farmer who lost his wife and 3 children in one night when the flood swept through his home, a missionary who rode through the streets of Wuhan, picking up orphan children, a young girl who, separated from her family, walked for days on end with no food, no shoes, and no clue if she'd ever see her parents again. These aren't just footnotes in history. They're echoes of lives interrupted. Entire generations were erased. Family trees broken at the root. Their pain, their resilience, their silence. It lingers. We carry their stories today, not just as records of sorrow, but as warnings and reminders. When the waters finally receded, the landscape had changed forever. Millions were homeless, crops were gone, livestock dead, infrastructure in ruins. But something else happened too. China realized it needed to change its relationship with water. The flood exposed not just nature's fury, but China's vulnerabilities: outdated infrastructure, weak coordination, poor planning. In the years that followed, especially after the founding of the People's Republic in 1949, China would embark on massive water management projects, dams, levees, canals, and reservoirs. One of the biggest outcomes was the decision to eventually build the Three Gorges Dam, a controversial but symbolically powerful effort to tame the Yangtze once and for all. So what can we learn from the 1931 China floods? First, that nature doesn't forget. When we deforest, overbuild, and ignore warning signs, we set the stage for disaster. Second, the need for strong governance. Disaster preparedness, early warning systems, and international cooperation save lives. And third, empathy. When the waters rise, it's often the poor, the forgotten, the voiceless who suffer most. Disaster response must be inclusive, compassionate, and fast. In today's world of climate change and extreme weather, the 1931 floods feel frighteningly relevant. We cannot afford to forget. History, after all, has a way of repeating itself, especially when ignored. The 1931 China floods were more than just a tragedy. They were a turning point, a painful chapter in human history, written in water and mud. As we look back nearly a century later, we honor the lives lost, not just by remembering, but by learning. Thank you for watching. If you found this video meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden stories of history. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of nature.